I didn't plan on starting a war that night. I just wanted to get through Christmas Eve without drama. That was it. One peaceful family gathering. No eye rolls, no backhanded comments, no passive-aggressive remarks wrapped in fake smiles. Just food, laughter, and maybe, just maybe, a moment of quiet joy. But of course, Amanda had to open her mouth. She was sitting across from me on Grandma's big plaid couch, legs crossed like a queen waiting to be served. Her long nails tapped rhythmically against the armrest, eyes scanning the stack of presents under the tree, like she was mentally judging their wrapping quality. The fire crackled softly behind us, casting flickers of orange light across the room. The smell of cinnamon rolls and pine drifted through the air, the kind of holiday warmth you see in movies. If you cropped out Amanda. My stomach tensed the second she picked up the gift I had placed under the tree. It was small, elegant, wrapped neatly in silver paper with a white bow. Nothing flashy but intentional. Thoughtful. Her perfectly shaped eyebrow arched. Well, let's see if this year's gift is finally decent. I felt a ripple in the room. It was subtle, like a cold draft slipping through a cracked window. Grandma's smile twitched. My sister Lily stiffened beside me. Uncle Rob cleared his throat and pretended not to hear. But I heard it, loud and clear, and I felt it too. The tightening in my chest, the slow burn crawling up my neck. My palms felt suddenly damp. I rubbed them against my jeans, forcing a tight smile. Just let it go, Ethan. Don't start anything. That's what I told myself every year. And every year, Amanda found a way to make me regret staying quiet. She held the gift box like it offended her. It better not be another gift card, or one of those self-help books, she scoffed, laughing at her own joke. God, remember that? So passive-aggressive? I swallowed hard. That book had been hand-picked for her. Boundaries. When to say yes, how to say no. I had spent a whole evening reading reviews, trying to find something she'd actually use. She never even opened it. Her words hit harder than they should have. Why? Why did I still care what she thought? Why did it still sting? Because I wanted to be seen. That's the truth of it. Even after everything, even after the years of subtle digs and undermining jabs, I still hoped, somewhere deep down, that she'd appreciate something I did. That just once she'd say thank you and mean it. But no, not Amanda. I glanced around the room. Everyone was pretending not to notice the tension. My mom busied herself with a tray of cookies. Grandma adjusted the ribbon on her blouse. Lily looked at me with wide eyes, her expression silently asking, "You okay?" I nodded. But inside, my thoughts were racing. You're not okay. You're exhausted. You're tired of being polite. You're tired of the games. Amanda began peeling away the wrapping paper, slowly and dramatically, like she was opening a bomb. Her smirk widened with every layer she removed, clearly expecting to be disappointed and ready to broadcast it. I exhaled through my nose, sharp and quiet. My fingers curled into fists on my lap. She doesn't deserve another chance. You gave her so many. She keeps spitting on them. The final layer came off. Amanda lifted the lid of the box. Inside was a single folded sheet of white paper. She stared at it, confused. The room went quiet. It was a silence I've never heard before, deep, full, unnerving. The fire's crackle seemed distant. Even the kids in the other room paused, as if they could sense something had shifted. Amanda unfolded the paper. Her lips moved as she read the words, eyes scanning slowly. And then she blinked. Once, twice. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. Finally, she whispered, almost breathless, "What is this supposed to mean?" The paper trembled slightly in her hand. I looked her in the eye. You said you never get a good gift, I said, my voice even. Calm. So this year, I gave you honesty. And that's when the room froze. My sister's jaw dropped. Grandma's smile disappeared like a puff of smoke. Uncle Rob's glass stopped halfway to his lips. Even the dog looked confused. Amanda's face was blank, then flushed. Her hands shook. Her mouth opened again, and this time, the words came. But I'll save that for the next part. Because that was just the beginning. I should have known the night would be trouble the second I pulled into Grandma's driveway. Snow was falling just hard enough to blur the windshield, and the porch light flickered like it was struggling to stay alive. I sat there in the car for a few seconds, gripping the steering wheel, listening to the engine tick as it cooled. Inside, I could already hear the muffled sounds of laughter, Christmas music, and the high-pitched bark of Grandma's Pomeranian losing its mind over each new arrival. But none of it felt warm. Not to me. I stared up at the house. Every window glowing soft yellow, the familiar shape of my childhood, a place that should have felt like home. Instead, my stomach twisted. I reached into the passenger seat, picked up the silver-wrapped box, and held it for a second. Just held it. It was light, barely anything inside, but it might as well have weighed 1,000 pounds. My fingers tightened around it until the edges of the paper crinkled a little. "You're sure about this?" my brain whispered. I wasn't. But I was tired. Not just sleepy tired, soul tired, the kind that settles into your bones after years of biting your tongue, after years of watching someone poison every gathering, every conversation, and somehow walk away the victim every single time. Amanda, my cousin, my aunt's daughter, my personal test of patience since the age of 8. Growing up, she always had a way of making everything about her. Her scraped knee became a family emergency. Her birthday party wasn't just a celebration. It was a royal event. And every Christmas, without fail, she turned the joy of giving into a one-woman critique panel. I remember when I was 16. I had saved up my part-time paycheck to buy her a necklace she'd mentioned once. She opened it, looked at it for 2 seconds, and said, "It's not really my style, but thanks anyway." Then she moved on to the next gift like she was scrolling past a boring post. And it wasn't just me. I'd seen her belittle gifts from my little sister Lily, gifts our grandma had put real time into, even things from her own dad. But no one ever said anything. Not Grandma, not Uncle Rob, not even my mom. We just let it go, every time. Because confronting Amanda meant unleashing a storm. But this year, something in me snapped. I stepped out of the car, boots crunching against the icy gravel. The cold hit me in the face like a slap, and I welcomed it. At least it was honest. Inside, the house was warm and loud. Christmas music played from the old stereo in the corner, some upbeat Michael Bublé track. The smell of Grandma's cinnamon apple cider filled the air, sweet and nostalgic. Tinsel lined the banister. Lights twinkled on the tree in the living room, ornaments swaying ever so slightly from the heating vent's hum. Lily spotted me first. "You made it!" she grinned, rushing over to wrap me in a tight hug. She smelled like sugar cookies and hairspray. "Wouldn't miss it," I said, giving her a one-armed squeeze. I wasn't lying. I loved seeing Lily. She was the only one who really noticed the tension in our family. We shared the same look sometimes. Across the dinner table, behind Amanda's back, just 2 people silently screaming into the void. Grandma waved me over from the kitchen, cheeks flushed from cooking, hands flour-dusted. "Ethan, grab a plate, sweetheart. Dinner's almost ready." I smiled and nodded, setting Amanda's gift under the tree on my way to the kitchen. Then I heard it. "Ugh, who wrapped this? It looks like something from a gas station." Her voice. Amanda was here. I turned and saw her standing by the fireplace, long coat draped over one arm, her other hand flipping through presents with zero discretion. She had that smug half-smile she always wore, like she already knew she was the main character. Our eyes met, briefly. She raised an eyebrow. "Oh, hey, Ethan. You made it." "Yep," I said flatly. "Wouldn't miss it." She rolled her eyes and turned away, already over it. Lily appeared beside me again, her expression tight. "Just breathe," she whispered, as if reading my mind. "It's just a few hours." I nodded, but something in me felt different this time. Like I'd finally crossed a threshold I didn't know existed. I wasn't angry, I wasn't bitter, I was done. And I had wrapped that decision in silver paper and set it under the tree, just waiting for her to open it. The moment Amanda started opening gifts, I knew it was only a matter of time before the air would shift. Dinner had ended. Pot roast, mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce that still somehow had the shape of the can, and the table was scattered with crumpled napkins and half-empty cider mugs. Grandma clapped her hands like she always did, signaling the gift exchange. Everyone shuffled into the living room, plates still in hand, murmuring soft jokes and small talk. I stayed behind for a few seconds, pretending to gather dishes just to catch my breath. It felt like standing on the edge of something. Not quite a cliff, not quite a volcano, but there was a heat in my chest. A readiness. By the time I sat down next to Lily on the love seat, Amanda was already in the middle of the floor, dramatically passing out gifts like she was hosting the Oscars. She wore a sparkly red sweater that said "Sleigh Bell" in glittery script. Her voice was loud, her laughter louder. She handed Grandma a box. "Hope you like it," she said, all sugary sweet. Then, under her breath, "It's not like you don't have 20 scarves already." I watched Grandma's smile twitch, just slightly, as she opened the box and pulled out a floral scarf, the exact one Amanda had made fun of in front of me last month at brunch. Next came Uncle Rob's turn. Amanda tossed him a small wrapped package like it was a basketball. "Hope you didn't already buy this book for yourself," she said. He opened it, a hardcover biography on Steve Jobs. "Ah," he said, clearly unsure of what to do with it. "Thanks, Amanda." She grinned. "You said you liked Apple products, right?" I felt Lily shift beside me. Her eyes flicked towards me. It was starting. The pattern. The little digs. The tone-deaf presence disguised as thoughtful. But the worst part wasn't the gifts. It was the way she always made it known that everyone else was disappointing her. "I swear," she said to no one in particular, "if I get another basic candle or a coffee mug, I'm going to scream." My jaw tightened. Then she spotted the silver box under the tree. The one from me. "Ooh, what's this?" she said, already crouching down. "Looks fancy." Lily sat up straighter. I could feel the shift in her posture. Tension, anticipation, worry. Amanda turned the box over, searching for the tag. "From Ethan," she read out loud. "Wow, didn't know you still gave gifts after last year's trauma." I looked up, met her eyes. She was smiling, but there was venom in it. "Remember when you gave me that self-help book?" she went on. "What was it called again? Fix Your Attitude? No, Learn to Be Less Annoying?" She laughed, alone. My lips pressed into a thin line. I didn't respond. I didn't blink. Inside, my thoughts were a whirlwind of say something. "No, wait. Let her talk. Don't back down. This time just watch." She flopped down into the armchair, crossed her legs like a news anchor, and held the gift in both hands. "Well, here's hoping you didn't get me something equally tragic." The room had gone quieter. Not silent, but you could feel people listening now, watching. Everyone trying to act casual, but you could see the way Grandma kept glancing from Amanda to me. Uncle Rob scratched his beard, eyes fixed on the fireplace. Lily leaned toward me, whispering through the corner of her mouth. Did you actually do it?" I didn't answer. Amanda began peeling off the wrapping, slow and smug. She clearly expected to be disappointed and ready to make a show of it. "Let's see what Cousin Ethan thinks I need this year," she muttered, loud enough for everyone to hear. I felt my heartbeat in my fingertips. I wasn't nervous anymore. I wasn't even angry. I was clear. For the first time, I felt like I wasn't carrying the weight of keeping the peace. That job was never mine to begin with. She lifted the lid of the box. Her fingers pushed aside the tissue paper. And then she froze. Not dramatic, not exaggerated, just still. She reached in, pulled out the folded piece of white paper, and stared at it. I held my breath. She unfolded it. Her eyes scanned the sentence. Once, twice. The sparkle in her expression flickered. Gone in an instant. Her voice, when she spoke, was softer than I'd ever heard it. "Is this supposed to be funny?" Silence fell over the room. Real silence. Not the kind that fills space between conversations, but the kind that settles deep in your bones. The kind that holds its breath and waits to see who speaks first. I didn't look away. I just said calmly, "You said you never get a good gift. So this year, I gave you honesty." Her mouth opened, but no sound came. And in that suspended second before the fallout, I felt it. This wasn't just about her anymore. This was about every time someone's silence was mistaken for weakness. It's strange how calm you can feel right before everything changes. The moment Amanda read that note, and the room fell silent. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel clever or smug or even vindicated. I felt still, like I'd finally stopped running, stopped bending, twisting, contorting myself to keep the peace. I was just standing there in the middle of it all, saying exactly what I'd meant to say for years. But getting to that moment, that choice, took more than a few insults and awkward holidays. It took years of swallowing my own voice. The truth is, I almost didn't do it. A week before Christmas, I was at the mall, walking in circles with a half-written shopping list in my pocket, trying to find something, anything Amanda might like. I stopped outside a boutique that sold high-end candles and spa kits and thought, maybe this year, just keep it easy. I went inside, smelled the lavender, picked up a box labeled Stress Relief Essentials. I stood there for maybe 10 minutes, staring at it like it held the answer to something bigger than stress. I even carried it to the register, but I didn't buy it, because suddenly I could hear her voice in my head again. Ugh, candles are such a lazy gift. And not just her words, but the way she'd laugh after saying them, like she was the only one who mattered in the room. I left the store with nothing. That night, I sat in my apartment with a blank sheet of printer paper and thought about every holiday she made someone feel small, every look of disappointment she didn't bother to hide, every thank you she never said. And I wrote 7 words. You're not invited next year. Happy holidays. Then I stared at the paper for a long time. It wasn't meant to be cruel. It was meant to be clear. Amanda had spent years treating people like props in her own personal drama, each of us performing kindness, patience, and grace while she critiqued the show. And no one ever challenged her. We all played our roles, hoping she'd outgrow it or get tired of the spotlight. But she didn't. So I decided that if she needed a moment, I'd give her one. I folded the paper in half, slid it into a white envelope, and tucked it inside a small box. I wrapped that box with care, silver foil paper, crisp edges, white satin ribbon. It looked elegant, expensive, like the kind of gift she'd assume came from a high-end store, because I wanted her to open it. I needed her to expect something she could judge, and instead receive something she couldn't dismiss with a snide comment or an eye roll. Just the truth. Lily was the only person I told beforehand. She was sitting on my couch 2 days before Christmas, painting her nails while I debated whether I was about to ruin the family. I showed her the note. She read it once, blinked, and then let out this quiet, shocked laugh. "You're actually doing it?" she asked. "I think so." She looked up at me, eyes soft but serious. "You know it's going to be nuclear, right?" I nodded. "Yeah, but I'm not doing it to punish her. I'm doing it to stop lying to her, and to myself." Lily didn't say anything right away. Then she nodded too. "Good." So I wrapped the box, tucked it under the tree the moment I arrived, and waited. Now, sitting in Grandma's living room, I watched Amanda hold the paper like it had burned her fingers. She didn't crumple it. She didn't laugh. She didn't scream. She just stared. Her mouth opened again, but no words came. Her carefully curated persona, the sarcasm, the eye rolls, the dramatic flair, was gone. For a second, she looked like a kid who'd been caught stealing cookies. Vulnerable, raw, and it shook me more than I expected, because part of me still wanted her to understand. Not just that I was done, but why. That it wasn't about revenge, it was about boundaries. I didn't say anything more. I didn't need to. That was the point of the note. Short, simple, unavoidable. "You're not invited next year, because sometimes the most loving thing you can say to someone is no." She blinked down at the paper, as if the words might rearrange themselves into something more palatable, something more flattering, something not true. But they didn't. She held the note between her fingers like it might disintegrate, her glossy red nails trembling ever so slightly. Her mouth opened again. Still no sound. Her eyes darted across the room, looking... What? For an ally? For someone to step in? Silence. Grandma sat perfectly still, her hands clasped in her lap like she was holding on to something invisible. Uncle Rob looked from Amanda to me and back again, blinking, confused. Lily was biting the inside of her cheek, trying not to make a face. And I just sat there, calm, unflinching. It was the first time Amanda didn't have the room wrapped around her finger. The first time nobody rushed to rescue her, to minimize what just happened. She looked back at the note. Her voice finally broke through, hoarse and too loud in the quiet. "You're not... What is this? Some kind of joke?" My voice came out low and steady. "No." "Seriously?" She laughed, but it was dry, brittle. "This is supposed to be a Christmas present?" I didn't move. "You said you never get a good gift. I figured this year I'd give you something useful." Her eyes narrowed. "Useful? This is pathetic." A flicker of old Amanda returned, sharp, defensive, but it was weaker now, unanchored. She stood up, holding the paper like it was poison, and looked around the room, trying to gather support. No one jumped in. Even Uncle Rob just rubbed the back of his neck and looked away. She snapped her gaze to Grandma. "Did you see this? Are you okay with this?" Grandma didn't respond at first. She looked down at her lap, then at me, then slowly nodded. "I think," Grandma said carefully, "that maybe some honesty was long overdue." That was when Amanda's mask cracked. Her face went blank. No smugness, no comebacks, just a look I'd never seen from her before, like her world had tilted sideways, and she had no idea how to stand on it. She stared at me. "So what? You're done? That's it?" I held her gaze. "Amanda, every year you make people feel small. You dismiss the effort everyone puts into making this day special, and then you act like we're the ones who owe you something. I'm not angry, I'm just Done pretending that's okay. You think you're better than me? No, I said, shaking my head slowly. I just think I've finally learned how to stop rewarding cruelty. Her mouth twitched like she wanted to argue. But the words didn't come. Maybe for the first time in her life, she didn't have a line rehearsed. The room stayed quiet, but the tension was different now. Not sharp, not strained, more like cleared. Amanda stood there for another few seconds, then gently set the note back in the box, like she couldn't stand to hold it anymore. Well, she said flatly, guess I'll save you the trouble. She turned, picked up her coat, and walked out. The door clicked shut behind her. No one moved for a full minute. I could hear the wind against the windows, the soft hum of the refrigerator, the rustle of Lily shifting beside me, barely breathing. Then Grandma sighed. Well, I think we could all use some dessert. That broke the spell. Lily let out a breath like she'd been underwater. Uncle Rob finally sipped the cider he'd been holding for 10 minutes, and I sat back in the love seat, muscles relaxing inch by inch, like someone had unclenched my entire spine. Nobody celebrated, nobody clapped. But something had changed. Not just Amanda walking out. It was like the whole family had been holding its breath for years, and tonight we'd finally exhaled. I wasn't sure what would happen next. If Amanda would call tomorrow, if she'd cut everyone off, if she'd show up next year like nothing happened. But that wasn't mine to worry about anymore. For once, I hadn't smoothed things over. I hadn't laughed it off. I hadn't played nice just to avoid discomfort. And honestly, that was the best gift I gave myself all year. The house didn't feel quieter after she left. It felt lighter, like we'd peeled off a layer of something that had been suffocating us all for years, and suddenly the air had space in it again. Nobody said it out loud, but we all felt it. The tension that Amanda brought to every room, the subtle pressure to tiptoe, to flatter, to tolerate, gone. I didn't expect applause. I didn't want it, but I noticed the change. Grandma smiled a little more genuinely as she brought out dessert. Lily actually laughed without forcing it. Even Uncle Rob, who'd always seemed blind to Amanda's behavior, looked quietly reflective, like he was seeing the family dynamic with new eyes. I didn't feel proud. I felt relieved. Like I'd finally handed back something I was never supposed to carry. That night, when the dishes were done and the wrapping paper was stuffed into trash bags and everyone was gathering coats, Grandma pulled me aside. Her fingers were soft and cool when they touched my wrist. She might not say it, she murmured, but I think part of her heard you. I looked down, then nodded. I wasn't trying to humiliate her. I know, sweetheart, she said. That's why it mattered. The drive home was quiet, just the low hum of the tires against snow-lined roads and the occasional buzz of a street lamp overhead. Lily rode with me, her chin tucked against the window, watching frost etch patterns on the glass. She needed that, she said softly after a long stretch of silence. Yeah, I said. I think we all did. But the real aftermath came later. The next day, no one heard from Amanda. No texts, no calls, no angry monologues in the family group chat. Just silence. 3 days later, she blocked me on Instagram. 2 weeks after that, my mom told me Amanda had sent an email to the family saying she would be taking space and evaluating the kind of energy she allowed into her life. Which was ironic, considering how much of her life had been draining everyone else's. But here's the thing. No one begged her to come back. No one rushed to smooth it over. And for the first time in years, the family chat stayed peaceful. No drama, no snide comments, just pictures of Grandma's cooking, dumb jokes from Uncle Rob, and Lily sending memes at midnight like she always did. The silence Amanda left behind wasn't empty. It was clean. I kept thinking about how long I'd stayed quiet, not just with her, but in so many parts of my life. How often I avoided discomfort just to keep things nice. How many times I'd chosen peacekeeping over honesty, thinking it was the right thing. But it wasn't peace. It was fear in a pretty disguise. And here's what I've learned. Some people mistake kindness for weakness. They push and they prod, and they test the boundaries until you forget where your lines even were. Until you start believing that shrinking yourself is love, that silence is maturity, that endurance is the same as connection. It's not. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do, for yourself and for others, is to say, this isn't working anymore. This dynamic question mark, this pattern? It has to stop. It doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be cruel. But it has to be clear. And sometimes that means letting go of the idea that family means automatic access. Sometimes love looks like distance. Sometimes it looks like a folded piece of paper in a silver box. I don't know if Amanda will ever come back to a family gathering. I don't know if she'll ever apologize. I don't even know if she understood what that gift meant. But I do know this. I stopped abandoning myself to accommodate someone who never met me halfway. And that, somehow, made space for the people who actually saw me. The people who wanted to be there. Not just to be seen, but to see others too. This year, I didn't give Amanda a gift she wanted. I gave her the one she needed. And in doing that, I gave one to myself too.